lake. This vessel carries a full complement of life-saving equipment in the form of life rafts, life rings, and buoyancy tanks. These are situated around the vessel in accessible locations and are designed to be released for free in the unlikely event of an emergency. Life jackets are located in the lower saloon under the seats. We do ask that passengers on the upper deck refrain from standing on the seats or leaning over the safety rails. Downstairs, all the emergency exits are clearly marked. This includes the 2 sliding doors at the front. In the event of an emergency arising, please remain calm, seated, and follow the instructions that will be given by the crew. Miss Lakeland is a non-smoking vessel. This includes outside and the use of e-cigarettes. And finally, please keep children with you at all times and don't allow them to run around the vessel. Windermere is the largest lake in England. It's 10.5 miles or 16 kilometres in length, a mile or 1.6 kilometres at its widest, and up to 220 feet or 67 metres at its deepest. It's split into 2 main basins, the north and south, by the group of islands just here off Bowness. This 45-minute circular cruise takes us around a few of these islands, many of which have quite a history to tell. Now we're underway, the bar is open. Situated downstairs at the rear of the saloon, it sells tea, coffee, hot chocolate, soft drinks, beers, wines and spirits. We also sell crisps and a range of chocolates and sweets. Please note that the bar will close a few minutes prior to arrival. The vessel on the left is the motor vessel Swan, built in 1938 by Vickers Armstrong of Barrow in Furness for the London Midland Scottish Railway. She was transported in sections by rail to Lakeside and put together on the slipway there prior to launching. She weighs 250 tonnes and is powered by 2 Cummins diesel engines. As built, she could carry over 700 passengers, although nowadays this has been reduced to a maximum of 533 passengers with a crew of 6. Belle Isle, to our right, is the largest and only inhabited island on the lake. It has been lived on for hundreds of years, but the current dwelling, visible through the trees, is a roundhouse, constructed in 1774 by Thomas English. In 1781, English sold the island, and the new owner of Long Holme, as it was known then, was Isabella Kerwin of Workington Hall. She married her cousin, John Christian, who took Isabella's surname, and the couple made Long Holme their residence. It was the Kerwins who planted a ring of trees around the island for privacy, but also, unfortunately, partly obscuring the view of the house at the same time. So fond of Windermere and the island was John Kerwin that he renamed the island Belle Isle after his wife, and over the years this has become Belle Isle.
Oh my god, I've done it again. Ow, I'm gonna have no French nails. Yanking my... I don't know. No.
The very small island on the right here, which looks like a tree blue-tacked to a rock, is called Maidenholm. Now in the 1700s, Nicholson and Byrne toured the British Isles, writing about the weird and strange customs they came across on their travels. When they visited Bo'ness, they came across a very strange custom indeed. At the time, Bo'ness had a very small population where everyone knew one another. In order to ensure that couples who were betrothed to be wed were a suitable match, it was customary for the bride and groom to come out here to Maidenholm and spend 7 days and 7 nights together. If the couple could manage the week without one of them swimming ashore and running for the hills, then the wedding was allowed to go ahead. Otherwise, the match was forbidden. The result of this was that Bo'ness marriages were destined to last. With the advent of tourism and easier travel, this tradition was done away with as the pool of potential partners became greater. The building set up on the hill to the right is a Quaker station, built in the late 18th century as a viewing platform. The way it worked was in each of the large windows there were 6 different colours of stained glass. 4 represented the different seasons of the year. There was also purple for thunderstorms, pale blue for moonlight. The idea was you would come to the lake in the middle of summer and view it how it would look in winter and so on. During the 20th century the building fell into disrepair, but in the last few years the National Trust has renovated it, opened it to visitors, and to enhance their experience, even put some stained glass around the windows to give some indication of what it would have been like nearly 200 years ago. You may recall Windermere has a maximum depth of 220 feet or 6 to 7 metres, but the average depth is only around 40 feet or 12 metres. Many places around this section are much shallower. Across a couple of similar houses on our right hand side now, with lovely gardens stretching down to the shore. The more northerly of the two, or the one on the right, is known as Felbrook. It has been recalled that Mrs. Grafton used to live here with her large number of cats and dogs. She believed that her animals had souls and she used to dress them up for church services in a specially built chapel on the grounds. She also celebrated the animals' birthdays with dress-up parties, sometimes on the islands nearby. She wasn't really one for socialising with humans, but Mrs. Grafton did allow one young girl to visit when she was here on her summer holidays. This young girl was called Beatrix Potter. Could Mrs. Grafton have been the inspiration for Miss Potter's future works? We often get low-flying aircraft coming over the lake. The country is split up into 20 low-flying areas, and the Cumbrian Mountains are known as LFA 17, or Low Flying Area 17. Pilots have no restrictions over their choice of route, except for certain mountain valleys which are one way, narrow gaps between obstacles. The aircraft are meant to fly no lower than around 250 feet and have a speed limit of around 500 knots. LFA 17 has approximately 11,295 square kilometres of airspace available for low-flying training. We get a wide array of aircraft. We get Hawks, Tucanos, Atlas A400s, Chinooks, F-35s, Hercules and Osprey, to name but a few.
I'm not flying Ospreys to actually see them fly. That's the coolest. Especially the trainer when you fly
Crossing the lake now, and you can see Windermere continuing south from here to Lakeside. It's at Lakeside where the water has taken around 9 months to travel the length of the lake, exits south through the River Leven, dropping 138 feet, over 7 miles into Morecambe Bay and the Irish Sea. Speedboat Racing Club, which is the oldest club of its type in the world, having been set up in 1925. Famous members have included Henry Seagrave, Lionel Campbell and his father Malcolm, each of whom held water speed records at one time. After the introduction of the 10-mile-an-hour speed limit on the lake in 2005, racing took place off the lake. But since 2013, a special dispensation has allowed 2 or 3 race days each year on the lake again during the summer months. Broadleys has also been used as a filming location for the TV series Poirot and the film The French Lieutenant's Woman. At that time, Windermere was actually two smaller bodies of water, and dry land splitting the lakes just off Bowness. The ice receded over many centuries, and the meltwater, rushing off the glacier and treating up the trout river ground, deepened the channels between the islands, making them permanent, and creating one large lake. The maximum depth of water around the islands is only 14 feet, reflecting this.
Commoners on the boat, darling.
The earliest reference to which is 1438, although it's likely a crossing had been operated of some description for a few hundred years before that. The large grey building you can see through the trees is the Ferry House, built in 1880 as a hotel on the site of the former Ferry Inn, which has stood there since the 16th century. Opposite Ferry House is the island of Crowholme. Ingeniously, Bruce Logan, who was a former landlord of the Ferry Hotel, used the island as kennels for his house trailing dogs. When a hunt was on, they would swim ashore, and then, whilst Mr. Logan and his friends sailed for the start of the hunt in his steam yacht Esperance, the hounds would follow, running along the shore, meeting him wherever he berthed his boat. As we travel round the island, you can't fail to notice all the moored boats. The moorings around here are particularly sought after, as the islands provide added protection from the wind. Any boat with a mechanical form of propulsion has to be registered for use on the lake, and each year nearly 5,000 boats are registered with the local council. A similar number of unregistered vessels, sailing boats, kayaks, canoes and so on, also use the lake, making Windermere the busiest stretch of non-tidal water in the UK. The two islands ahead of us are collectively known as the Lilies of the Valley. Their old names of Smallholm and Ingholm are now nearly forgotten. They take their newer name from the flowers that used to grow all over them, but which are now locally extinct. During the Edwardian era, it became a bit of a tradition to hire one of the 300 rowing boats available in Bowness, row out with your loved one and pick them some of the flowers. Unsurprisingly, it wasn't long before the flowers were all picked out. Nowadays, the islands are a bit of a haven for the local wildlife, and as a result, the lake rangers try to limit landings on them during the nesting season in the early part of the year. passing Windermere's second largest island, Thompson's Hole, or Tommy Hole. It takes its name from its previous owners, the Thompson family of Under Millbeck. The first reference to it is from deeds dating to around 1390. It's quite a long island, which is sometimes split in two at times of high water. It's also a breeding ground for local bird life, and as a result, landing is prohibited during the breeding season. Thompson's Hole used to be quite a bit smaller than it is today. When the lake was commercially dredged, sand, gravel and silt, which didn't meet the grade required, was dumped around the island, making it quite a bit larger than it used to be. Crossing the lake now, you can see Windermere continuing north up towards Ambleside. At the head of the lake, the large mountain is the Fairfield, which, at its summit, stands at 2,863 feet above sea level. It's where one of the three main glaciers that carved out the lake originated.
Yeah. One little bit of beautiful weather, but
as we sail through the bay again, you can see the village of Bo'ness laid out along the shoreline. Prior to the arrival of tourism, Bo'ness was a small village that could trace its roots back a couple of thousand years. With the arrival of tourism in the early 19th century, the village expanded into what you see today. This expansion was aided by the introduction of excursion vessels on the lake in the 1830s. These first tourist boats were simple rowing boats, but in 1845 the luxurious paddle steamer, Lady of the Lake, was introduced. Successive steamers were made larger and larger to help accommodate the masses that arrived by rail to the lake. The first railway reached the village of Birthwaite, just up the hill from Bo'ness, and now renamed Windermere, in 1847. Lakeside, at the southern tip of the lake, was reached in 1869. Wealthy industrialists, moved here and made their home at the lake shore, commuting to their workplaces for the week and returning up here at weekends. One such man was Henry Schneider, known as the man who built Barrow. He purchased the Bellsfield, the large cream building dominating the view behind the piers there. The Bellsfield had been built in 1845 as a mansion for the Baroness de Sternberg, who had died in 1859. Schneider commuted to Barrow daily in his steam launch Esperance, which is now kept in the Windermere Jetty Museum. His butler would precede him down the lawn in the morning with his breakfast, which was eaten on the voyage to Lakeside. At Lakeside, Schneider boarded his private railway carriage cum office and started work on the way to Barrow. The Bellsfield is now a hotel.
If you wish to please land at Bowness. As we do so, please find a seat and remain seated until the vessel is securely tied alongside the pier. Eyes and safe for you to stand and leave. Thank you. One final announcement, please keep the top deck gangway clear so the crew can get through to the back of the boat. If they can't get through, then you can't get off. Thank you.